It's that time again, everyone. I'm a football YouTuber, so I have to do this video. It's just the law. It's not the law, it's just good for content. I'm going to react to my Premier League predictions I made in August. And I can safely tell you right now that I've had some absolute shockers in here. But how was I to know that Leicester City were going to get relegated when they've been fighting for Europe the last few years? No one could see that coming. So let me off the hook a little bit. If you do enjoy this video, everyone, please hit the like button, subscribe to Rads if you're new. There are some videos coming over the next couple of weeks reflecting on what has been an amazing season of football. A lot of it, of course, centred around Forest. And then, of course, as the summer goes on, I'll be doing plenty in preparation for the next season, which I'm already very excited about. Going in alphabetical order, we've got Arsenal first. I said they'll be fifth this season. Of course, they came second. I think everyone knows how Arsenal's season went. I thought they wouldn't do anything too spectacular. There was clearly a bit of a foundation there and Arteta to actually do well, but I don't think anyone thought they'd come second. I think it's weird that overall, if Arsenal fans were told they'd come second in August, they'll be delighted with that, but the manner in which they bottled that first place is going to really sting. But I do feel it's an experience that will go a long way for them building forward and becoming a title contender and actually be able to see it out. They needed this experience, in my opinion, to kick on. Bournemouth, I said 20th, they came at 15th. I fell for the trap. Everyone said Bournemouth would come rock bottom. I just didn't think they'd stand the chance. They didn't particularly end the second half of the Championship last season in the most convincing manner at times, and I really thought the lack of Premier League quality, essentially, would cost them. And Scott Parker, eventually he got sacked quite early on in the season, actually. Gary O'Neill, he deserves a lot of credit, arguably one of the manager of the season contenders, for what he's done in his first ever managerial role is unbelievable. He's got some amazing results out of that Bournemouth team, but I do think it's clear they need a bit more strength in depth in certain areas of that team if they want to kick on. And I think they should be fine again next season. I don't see them going down. I think they'll be okay, but they just need to spruce up the squad in certain areas, especially because they're going to lose Jefferson Lerma, for instance, in that midfield. Just little tweaks here and there, and they could be even stronger. Aston Villa, what a season for them. I said 11th, they came 7th. Of course, that doesn't tell the story. Under Steven Gerrard, they were struggling at the bottom of the Premier League table, fighting relegation. Steven Gerrard being heavily exposed as a manager, quite clearly not good enough at this level. And then in the same season, Unai Emery completely turns it around. And really, besides their loss to Wolves recently, they lost to Leicester as well in February, I believe it was. They haven't really had any major lows. And this is unbelievable. This is across the course of about 6 or 7 months since Unai Emery took over. It's incredible what he's done at that club, not just to get them out of relegation, which they shouldn't have been anywhere near, by the way, but to get them into the Conference League. And albeit it's a rip-off Champions League, it's still European football. It's still their first European season since 2011. And even I, as a neutral, am looking forward to seeing how they do in Europe. Brentford, I mean, what an achievement yet again. 15th, I said they came in 9th. Thomas Frank, yet again, defying the odds. This Brentford team, with little investment put into it, have defied the odds again. It just shows that you don't particularly have to go mental in football to necessarily actually succeed. And money does continue to drive football, but Brentford have proven that it doesn't always have to be that way. And Thomas Frank, I think, plays a massive part in their success this season. They've got an unbelievable record against the top 6. They've taken 21 points from a possible 36 against the alleged Big Six of the Premier League, beating Man City both times. An outstanding achievement, and they were unlucky not to reach European football. Brighton, I said 12th, they came 6th. I mean, another example of how to be a Premier League football club, how to come up from the Championship and not just stay in the league, but push on to levels that I don't think Brighton fans could ever have foreseen happening. And for me, as a Forest fan, a newly promoted club this season or last season now, ultimately looking at Brighton and looking at Brentford and Fulham to a degree and Villa, these are the clubs that we should aspire to be like, in my opinion. The way that they've risen up in such a impressive way, you know, recruitment-wise, the way they've played their football, it's exactly what Forest should try and do. Evan Ferguson coming out of their youth academy and solving their striker issue all of a sudden. De Zerbi is, in my opinion, a lot better than Graham Potter, so him leaving to go to Chelsea actually was a blessing. And fair play to Brighton. European football at the Amex next season will be something special. One team that won't be competing in European football next season, despite winning the Champions League 2 seasons ago, is Chelsea. I said 4th. They came 12th. That is their lowest finish since 1994 when they came 14th. Their lowest goal return since 1994 as well, when they got 43 goals. They scored 38 goals this season. They desperately need a striker. I watched their game against Man United recently, lost 4-1. They could have scored at least 4 or 5 goals if they just had a better striker. Like, the finishing was utterly woeful. It starts from the top with Chelsea, in my opinion. Todd Boehly quite clearly not knowing what he's doing, or maybe it will be a little bit like Marinakis in ways. He had to learn the English game first, and I'm not comparing Marinakis to Todd Boehly, but you did see when Marinakis first took over Forest, he made a few mistakes. He was a bit rash in his decision making, and he's obviously got there in the end. And maybe it could be the same with Todd Boehly, but I have my doubts about that, and this is why I worry that Poch won't be the answer, because Poch, what he did at Spurs, he thrived off that family vibe and connection with the fans and the players. And if you're going to have an owner that's going to be interfering with you all the time, then it's going to be very difficult to have that. And if I was Pochettino, the first thing I'd want to be promised to me is he won't interfere with anything football related. Crystal Palace, I said 9th, they came 11th. I feel the reason why I put them 9th was because Patrick Vieira did show promise last season and I thought they could kick on, but ultimately it quite seriously petered out for him and the whole club, and a change was needed. Bringing back Roy Hodgson was heavily criticised, but my God, it worked. He won 5 of his 10 games in charge at Selhurst Park. Probably won't be staying on next season. He probably deserves to retire at this stage, Roy Hodgson. And I do feel for that reason, with how Wade did for them, his replacement is vital now. They cannot go out and get someone that's just going to rip up what they've done. They need to get a sensible manager in to really get the best out of what is a good looking squad here. They've got some building blocks there, Palace. It's just about whether they can take that opportunity now. Everton, I said 18th, they came 17th. I mean, they're immune to being relegated, aren't they? I was one off getting that one correct as well, so cheers Everton. Something must change very quickly if Everton want to avoid this again, because I can only see it going one way. You know, that is a very, very tired looking team. It's the issues off the pitch more than anything that's a concern. The points deduction looming over them. The ownership is quite clearly an issue. They've got the manager in Sean Dyche and have got some great players, James Garner being one of them, because if they'd gone down this season, I really feel it would have hit them badly in the Championship, so they're fortunate about that. Fulham, fair play to them. I said 19th, they came 10th. Finally proving that they are capable of staying in the Premier League. A lot of people wrote them off, saying they haven't got that quality and the players can never step up. Alizan Mitrovic, of course, had that ban, but besides that, 15 goals in the Premier League this season, having broken the Championship goal record the year before. I think that really helped him. I think Fulham's dominance in the Championship last season also helped them to really push on this season. Made some really smart signings like Willian, ended up being very crucial to them. Marcus Silva deserves an awful amount of credit for what he's done to them the last 2 seasons, getting them up like he did, like I say, and then keeping them up in such a convincing manner. In fact, keeping them up is an insult because they were never even in a relegation battle at any stage. In fact, for quite a while, they were in the European picture. Leeds. We could be here a while talking about Leeds, so I'm going to try and be a bit more brief. I said 16th, they came 19th. An absolute car crash. That's an understatement. Horror show, you name it. Just a shambles. And even as a neutral, watching Leeds recently has been frustrating. Not so much when Forest were in the relegation mix as well, because I was very welcome to seeing Leeds play absolutely woeful. But the goals they've conceded were truly amateur level. You know, the goal they conceded right at the end against Spurs when they desperately needed to win that game. I had to watch it a few times. Like, I thought, what am I witnessing here? You know, I'm not have any affiliation to Leeds United, but I just thought that is atrocious. They let Lucas Moura run through their entire defence, no urgency, no pressing, no passion, anything like that. I don't see Leeds bouncing back right now unless they get the right manager, they get a director of football, and they can't really make any changes to the squad without a director of football. So they look like in a really tough situation. Leicester City. Wow. I said 10th, they came 18th. Insane, quite frankly. In the modern era, seeing Leicester City get relegated after what they achieved since they were last in the Championship is something I don't think anyone could have seen coming. Having won the Premier League, won the FA Cup just 2 seasons ago, this time last year, got to a European semi-final, had 2 years in the Europa League, had a year in the Champions League, frequent top 10 finishes. It's phenomenal how they have so drastically declined. And I just think in terms of the fact that they're going to lose so many players, there's no way they keep Maddison and Tielemans and Barnes and Vardy. I just don't see it happening at all, and it's just all about how they replace them now. They've got to be very clever with their transfer policy. I feel if they go down a road like Burnley did, they let go of some players that they wouldn't necessarily have wanted to sell when they initially got relegated, and they just thought, yeah, okay, we'll move on. James Tarkowski, for instance, and players like that. I think Leicester should do similar, and they might stand a chance. Liverpool, I said second, they came 5th. Overall, big drop-off for them, but ultimately, I don't feel they're that far off getting back to the top. I just feel a little bit like Leicester, actually, that they just didn't freshen up this team enough. The likes of Milner, not being moved on. Oxlade-Chamberlain's been moved on now. Firmino's being moved on as well. That midfield was their main issue. They need to spruce that up. They just need to get some new faces into that team, and I think they'll do all right. They just didn't have the squad and legs anymore to play the kind of football that Liverpool play, that high tempo, high energy football. It takes it out of you, and I just feel that was a bigger reason why Liverpool dropped off. But ultimately, they came very close to still getting in the top 4, and I feel they will do better the next season. Man City, I mean, there's not really much I can say about them. It's just expected yet again. Despite looking like they were going to come second most of the season, they still found a way to win the league, ultimately quite convincingly. They thoroughly deserve to win the treble. They are just an absolute joy to watch. I don't think anyone dislikes watching Man City, and it just baffles me in every single way that we managed to draw with Man City at home with Jonjo Shelvey and Remo Freuler in midfield. I don't know how Forest did it. They didn't even lose a game from February to the last day of the season when they played some reserve players against Brentford. It's just insane. Man United, overall, a good season for them, coming 3rd, reaching 2 cup finals. Disappointing in the Europa League for them, the way they went out there, but overall, good season. Ten Hag is quite clearly the future for them. I think they need to trust the process. I think it seems like they're going to have quite a big summer, letting go of some players that have been there a while that need to be moved on. And, there could be some other players leaving. I think Harry Maguire might leave, for instance. They need to recruit some certain players. I think a striker is definitely needed for them, and maybe another midfielder to try and, take a bit of pressure off Casemiro, for instance, who's been obviously phenomenal for United. But I just feel, overall, compared to where they were last year under Ranrick and Solskjaer and Ronaldo going back and that, it's been a very good season for United. It could have been better, but still a good year for them overall. Newcastle United, absolutely outstanding. I said 8th, they came 4th. The most impressive thing about their rise is the fact that, yes, they've now got so much money behind them, but the way Eddie Howe has improved the players that were already there. Joe Linton was a joke at times. Murphy, Longstaff, these players were already at Newcastle. Fabian Schär, another one. There's Sam Maximan, all those players were already at Newcastle, and they've just got the best out of them. They've made them from relegation scrappers to being in the Champions League. Champions League football at St James's Park is going to be a sight to behold, even as a neutral. And yes, they've signed players like Bruno in midfield and Isak, but they've been incredibly wise with their transfer policy, and they've just got the best out of the players that they already had, and you've got to give them a huge amount of credit. Nottingham Forest, I think we know quite a bit about this team. 13th, I said, became 16th. In the end, only 3 places off. It looked a bit bold at one stage this season when we were bottom of the league in the first half of the season, and it looked like we were going to get relegated around about Easter time, but yet again, we trust the process. Yes, we signed 30 players. We had to sign 30 players, and you've got to give it to Cooper yet again. Having to gel all of that under all that pressure, all that scrutiny, learning the hardest league in the world, phenomenal achievement, and it's how we build from this now. Keeping our Premier League status was gigantic, and like I just said, we've got to build on it now and stay in the league and push on. Of course, home form heavily carried us. The away form is what's going to have to be improved next season if we want to push on. But I think we're all very delighted with how this season's gone overall. Southampton, I said 18th, they came 20th. Their 9-year stay in the Premier League comes to an end. It's been coming though, you know, the last 5 seasons before this one, 17th, 16th, 11th, 15th, 15th, and now of course rock bottom, besides that 11th place finish in the middle. Some very, very dull average finishes. It's been coming. Relegation has been coming for Southampton for a while. Moving on, Hasenhüttl was a big call. He'd been there for quite a while. In the end, he didn't do much worse than what Nathan Jones did. In fact, he did a lot better. And Ruben Sellers, I don't think was ever really going to be the option to keep them up. And they're going to lose some big personnel in the summer. There's no way that James Ward-Prowse stays in the Championship. I'll be astounded if that happens. But again, it's a bit like I said with Leicester. Recruitment's going to be vital for them now. And I think also getting in Russell Martin, that seems to be who they're going to go for. I think that's an amazing appointment for them, really. I know he's not done a great deal in terms of like pushing for top 6 with Swansea, but he's a very young and encouraging manager, and I feel that's the kind of manager that Southampton need. Spurs, I said 3rd, they came 8th. What an atrocious season by their standards, and yet again, since their Champions League final in the 18-19 season under Pochettino, they've only got a lot weaker. Since then, they've come 4th last season, but then 6th, 7th, 8th. Not even got European football next season, which could actually be a blessing to try and kick on. This is the most united I've ever seen Spurs in terms of wanting Daniel Levy out. Just look at every post that Spurs put on Twitter for the last several months now. After they lost 6-1 to Newcastle, literally every single post was just a banner saying Levy out. It is worth pointing out as well, by the way, 63 goals conceded, their worst return since 2008 when they conceded 61 goals. Atrocious defence at times, embarrassed in both cup competitions against Nottingham Forest and Sheffield United, a very dull exit of the Champions League to Milan. Just a really, really poor season for them. West Ham, I said 7th, they came 14th, having got 6th and 7th for 2 years before, a Europa League semi-final. I thought they'll continue to do more of that, but unfortunately in the league, pretty poor at times. I thought they were going to go down at one stage when they lost to Newcastle 5-1. I thought they were going to get relegated then, but no, they managed to stay up quite convincingly in the end. David Moyes under a lot of pressure, and I feel like their run to the Conference League semi-final is what's kept him in charge, honestly. If they can win the Conference League, they'll stay in Europe. That might convince, you know, the likes of Declan Rice to stay. He is a fantastic footballer, and, you know, I'd probably put him up there, one of my favourite non-Forest players, and he's just brilliant. He's their Yatesy in that midfield. He's their next Mark Noble. Wolves, the final club, I said 14th. They came 13th. Only 31 goals scored this season, let in 58. Some heavy defeats towards the end of the season to Brighton and Arsenal. They must keep Lopetegui in charge because, of course, they ended up getting rid of Bruno Lage. They may not have done anything too spectacular under him, but he has managed to really get them going, and I feel overall he's a good manager, and they just need to back him now in the summer, get a striker and improve that squad, because they're going to lose Ruben Neves potentially, maybe even other players. There's a lot of average players in that team as well for Wolves, and I just don't really know where their direction is. Their first 2 years in the Prem, they came 7th. Since then, they've been very mediocre mid-table. I don't really know where they're going, and I'm not sure they do either. What were your predictions though? Let me in the comments below. What do you think of mine? What do you think of the whole season? Let me in the comments below. There'll be some videos coming this week and next week. Stay tuned for them. And yes, thanks for watching everyone. Please like and subscribe to the channel if you're new. It goes a very long way, not far 5k subscribers now. So yeah, do that please. I'll see you very soon. Up the Reds.